the big board of the most annoying people you encounter every year during the tournament. That takes us to the jerk off the picks based on mascots. We joke and say it's women, but there's always some jerk off the bar who has done this and wants to tell you about it. Oh, really? Right. It's so interesting about, I don't know, how the Blue Jays would use their quickness and speed to outfight a duck. Like, please explain to me how the Blue Devil would use his magic powers to overcome a guy with a gun. Tell me about how in the 17th century they used to actually fight bears versus tigers, and bears always won. Who the hell cares? If you don't like college basketball, just don't participate. Don't annoy the hell out of the rest of us who actually like this sport, and this is a big event for us.
Oh my God,
I don't care about your analysis of mascot fights. Congratulations on your totally system you have created. That was actually the storyline for a What's Happening episode in 1977. I'm not even joking. There was a What's Happening where Rerun was picking games based on mascots.
No. Oh, my God.
Really? If this is how you're doing it, that's fine. Just don't tell me about it.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Where would a red storm rank, Mike Lubie? Virtually anything else? I mean, it's a weird type of storm. Rooting for our boy Rick Pitino in St. John's. A couple of more weenie conference championships. We always love that. But this is a great day, Lubie, to be sitting at the sports desk, is it not? As we welcome you to the show. Always great to be with you. Jeff DeForest, we got Mike Lubie Lubitz. And happy to have our Bleacher Brothers crowd checking us out every day. Later on today on Bleacher Brothers, by the way, very excited about this. Jim Larinaga going to join us. Jim Larinaga, two teams, two Cinderellas to the Final Four.
Yes.
And, great insight into basketball, a basketball treasure chest, we used to consider it. Anytime we got a chance to talk to him. So that's coming up later on today. Conversations on Bleacher Brothers right around 4 o'clock. Those people that are fetching all the time, I don't know, and you hear this out of sportscasters too. They'd be hosting a sports talk show. Now they're paying you to have the ability to manufacture something no matter what is going on, no matter how dead of a day it is. It could be Black Wednesday after the All-Star game?
Yes.
Which is no longer Black Wednesday because the WNBA has kind of taken. How is that possible? The WNBA, yeah, they somehow would manage to schedule like all teams. How many teams in the WNBA? I don't even know. Is it 12, 16, 20? What are they up to? They're expanding. They're really going crazy. The advancement, and I don't mean to impugn the integrity of the advancement of women's interest in basketball and women's interest in playing basketball, but that was always the thing. They would try to steal a day, much like the NBA at one time owned Christmas, until the NFL said, "Hey, we can make some money here too." And they drove them off the map. But it was always very lazy. A couple of things. I mean, it used to strike me about the sports talk industry and the business and the way it was, Lubie, back in the day, as they say, where a guy would come on the air and go, "Hey, we could talk Heat, we could talk Dolphins, we could talk Panthers, and we could talk." And it's like, you could talk about anything. You should be able to.
Exactly.
There are no rules in this, and it makes it very easy when you have a night and a day like yesterday in the sporting world, because it's easy and difficult at the same time, because where do you begin is the question. So I would imagine the NFL once again just usurped everybody in terms of gathering attention, and went to the top of the list yesterday. Quarterback carousel now rivaling anything that we've seen out of any coaching carousel that we've ever tracked in the offseason.
Yep.
You don't even know who's coaching half of these teams anymore. Who's coaching Seattle? Who got named there? Do we have any idea who's the Seattle Seahawks coach? Did they name a coach? Do they have a coach? They have a quarterback now with Sam Darnold. That was probably the biggest news after the blockbuster deals that were attained by Josh Allen and Myles Garrett the day before. Sam Darnold goes to Seattle. They had just traded Geno Smith to the Raiders, reuniting him with Pete Carroll. I mean, the drama, the storylines, Lubie, are just incredible.
Mike McDonald, the guy was the Ravens DC. Last year he was their coach, Mike McDonald.
Okay, so he's still there.
Yes,
Even
he's still
after-
there. He got a second year.
But they were knocking on the door last year. They were right there to the wire. I guess next to last week of the season, they finally got eliminated somewhere in there.
Yeah.
With Geno Smith, who really kind of manufactured a semi-remarkable career considering where he was at.
Yep.
And maybe the same could be said for Sam Darnold, who was a great story last year until the last two games when all of a sudden he had the old flutter ball there, and
Yep.
he was throwing the ball over the backstop. He literally was all over the place. High and wide is not a good place for a quarterback to throw a pass in the National Football League.
Nope.
And that's what happened. He got destroyed the last couple of games. Now, albeit against good competition, but nonetheless, I thought that was a little bit of a red flag alarm that maybe Sam Darnold hadn't quite gotten to the level where he was going to carry your team for 3 years at $100 million. $100 million a bargain now for a quarterback, by the way, at the top level. Justin Fields goes to the Jets. Somehow I don't see that. I'm sort of a fan of Justin Fields. I was surprised that he was benched by Mike Tomlin in favor of Russell Wilson, essentially. I mean, they bring him in for a couple of goal line plays or whatever. I'm not sure if they were just trying to pacify him or what. He was semi-effective as a starter when Pittsburgh got off to a really hot start that season, last season. And Russell Wilson was doing great until the last 6 games when he lost them all.
Yeah.
So Russell Wilson remains in play. We don't know if Pittsburgh's going to retain him. Are they after? Are they going after? I'm blanking now. On,
Aaron Rodgers, I've heard.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
Him flirting with the Steelers, which would be sort of interesting. They actually have a solid team and a solid foundation, the thing that the Jets didn't have.
Yeah, Rodgers, I mean, look, it seems like it's boiling down to 2 teams, and one is going to get either Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, and the other is going to get what's left over, the Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you would think, I don't know. I mean, did they sour on Russell Wilson when they were watching that abysmal losing streak, or were we looking at a team that really had just vastly overachieved earlier in the season and sort of came back down to earth as the season progressed and the games became more meaningful and more difficult, and they ended up losing them all and knocking themselves right out of playoff contention in the process? Do you get rid of both of your quarterbacks that you had on the roster as a result of that when you really don't have anything that you can put a stamp on and say with certainty, okay, this is going to work? So Aaron Rodgers may be that guy. I mean, statistically, he wasn't bad last year. The Jets were awful. He was running for his life. It was Ben Gazzara time. Does he have another year at a high level left in him, good enough to carry the Pittsburgh Steelers into the postseason? Or is this going to spark somewhere around midseason? How long are they going to keep this Tomlin guy? A lot of stuff happening yesterday in the National Football League. And, of course, your local team, and we're going to address this later on in the program. Well, we hail, of course, from South Florida here. Miami Dolphins are our hometown team. Spend a lot of time talking about South Florida teams here on the show. Lubie says, this is just your continuing and maybe unbalanced condemnation of Chris Greer.
I may start a campaign. I've never been a campaign person.
You're going to fly over the stadium? What are you going to do?
You always joke that I have a campaign for this FSU coach, and it's usually FSU related, actually. Jimbo Fisher, you know I like Jimbo Fisher. And then Norvell early on, which I did not like him, even though I've come back to the middle. And Hamilton, we know I hated. I've never been actually the campaign guy. I may campaign. I feel like we're really getting there with Chris Greer.
Well, you're assuming that he was sitting on his ass the entire time during the offseason. Now, it was weird that there was no news. I mean, they were moving the needle not one iota. It was one of those things where you're staring at the gauges in your car when you get in there and you're going, how come the engine is not heating up at all? Could there be a problem? I don't know. I don't see any check engine light. What do you make? Hey, anybody know what this means? You're going into the glove box trying to find the book.
Exactly.
Yeah, it looks to me like it could be a problem. And the needle wasn't moving. It was just sitting there dead. It was absolutely non-existent what was going on with the Miami Dolphins front office. They do get Zach Wilson. See, you and the professor were panning that move yesterday because Zach Wilson, look, we have all seen him play. He had every opportunity to become a starter with the New York Jets. It was another USC quarterback. How about this list, Lubie? Out of these guys,
Wilson
who would you say you would want to have at quarterback?
Wilson was BYU. Was Wilson Utah or Wilson was BYU?
Oh yeah, BYU. But I'm talking about
Darnold, Darnold.
yeah. I'm looking at USC quarterbacks
Yep.
and thinking, geez, I mean these guys they never make it. Hack Wilson though with the Jets, what was horrible. And then
Yes.
he bounced around. It looked like he was showing signs of life at the next stop on the tour, and went right back to the pack there. Horrific interception ratio. Is he somebody that you want? Is he an improvement over Skylar Thompson and the guys that the Dolphins had last year? Probably.
You're talking the wrong guy. Because look, Mike White, the guy that the Dolphins eliminated early in the season, beat out Zach Wilson the year before. So that's my problem. Is
Mike White's rise to the top, though, what was very, I mean, that was about as brief a period of
it didn't last.
demonstrated ability as we've seen, because by the time he got to the Dolphins as a backup, he was horrendous already. He had regressed to levels that you couldn't even imagine a guy dropping off that badly. I mean, sometimes you see a quarterback on a bad team. Look, he's going to look horrible. When a guy's got no time to throw the ball and the offensive line is an atrocity, has been the case with the Dolphins for a long time. Look, it's hard to judge a guy based on that when everything is going against you. And you're under such immense pressure that it's almost impossible to make anything positive happen. You're throwing balls in desperation. Your receivers are angry at you because you're not getting the ball off on time, but you got a guy in your face from the minute the ball is snapped. So not an easy situation. That one, I'm looking at these other two moves, though, Lubie. I'm surprised you're not applauding these. James Daniels and Larry Barome, two offensive linemen. So they addressed a big need. Both of these guys were drafted by the Bears. The first guy in the second round was a second-round pick of the Bears a few years back. And then the other guy was like a fifth-round pick. So not overwhelmingly distinguished, James Daniels and Larry Barome, not sure how you pronounce it. But at least they got a couple of guys that play a position that they're completely bereft of talent in. Yes. And maybe that will do something to solve their problem. Other than that, when Tua sits out 6 games and you got Zach Wilson in there, it's not like you're bringing in Don Strock. So that was part of the fanfare yesterday. NCAA, we had a couple of weenie teams punch their ticket, weenie conference teams. Wofford gets in out of the Southern Conference, dramatic victory over Furman, 92-85. Did that go into overtime, that game, Lubie? I know a lot of people were texting me. They were watching this game, and it was fantastic. I didn't get to see it. It's on a channel I don't get. And Troy wins the Sun Belt Conference, beating Arkansas State, 94-81. So I think you have 7 teams now out of these automatic bid conferences that have punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament. You have the big-time conference tournaments getting underway today, although how many buys do you get if you're a top seed in the SEC tournament? Do you play like
I think 2. I feel like you get 2.
I think you get two rounds of buys.
Yes, and Wofford did not go to overtime. Wofford Furman was regulation.
Okay. Everybody was talking about this game as if it was one of the great college basketball games of all time. I love that. I've said this many times.
Yeah.
You like seeing these guys that have no chance. This is one of those things, where the old adage about, well, you know what, when he's got his grandchildren on his knee, out there on the porch, which what is the likelihood of that? I have yet to sit with my grandson on my knee. If he's not like glued to his phone. This is how kids do it today. For those that are just listening, I got a phone just pressed to my face. Is that true of like all of life now? I mean, you see women taking pictures of themselves and they always have a phone in front of their face. What is that, Lubie? How does that work? Why would you have to have the phone in front of your face?
I don't know.
And they get like a full body picture, but the phone's always in front of their face. Are they just trying to block their face? Because with my grandkids, I both of them kind of look like this to me. They look like the back of my phone. What's the gratuitous hellos? Hey, you got any money for me or over? And these are great kids. They're very typical of what goes on in life, and especially so today. And as soon as you say, oh, I forgot to bring the stick that I usually give you, they turn their back on you. And the next thing you know, they're playing a game on their phone. Something so sophisticated that it's beyond the scope of my wildest imagination what the hell they're doing. So you have that going on, and the conference tournaments. Aaron Ekblad, speaking of local issues, Aaron Ekblad suspended 20 games, Louis. The Panthers defenseman. Now, we know the Panthers were concerned about their defense because they went and made that deal for, what was it, Seth Jones? Is that the guy's name? From the Blackhawks. They got defensemen, and they paid a high price for it, giving up their backup goalie, draft picks, all kinds of stuff, probably some under-the-table cash. But this Bill Zito has been extremely aggressive, and that's what we like to see. But at the same time, I don't know. Did he have some notion, perhaps, before he made that deal that, hey, Aaron's got a test there that's in question? They don't tell you anything in the NHL.
No.
The guy could be deceased, and they would be listed as having a lower body injury.
100%.
Right? We don't know what drug he did, what the circumstances were. There's no commentary. He accepted the 20-game ban. The only statement I saw about it was from Ekblad's people, if not Ekblad himself, who said, I was taking something for an injury that I didn't bother to check if it was on the banned substance list. So there you go. He's gargling with cortisone and whatever it was.
20 games. Ugh, that's annoying.
Mixed up in the Balco labs and 20 game suspension. So isn't that like the rest of the regular season?
Go into the playoffs?
I would think so, doesn't it? They had like 19, 20 games left, something like that.
Oh, shoot.
I'm sure the NHL didn't take into consideration, well, geez, let's give them enough to make it back for the first playoff game. Because
definitely into the so that they will extend a regular season suspension into the playoffs.
Is that the way it works? I would think so.
That's annoying because they played 64 games and there's an 82-game season. So that means they're not going to end it, and they're not going to let it go into the next regular season. Oh, that's annoying. Are you serious?
I mean, how could you really put it into the next regular season and just let the guys slip into the playoffs as if the
go play? I mean, the SEC.
You were going to rest the rest of the regular season anyway, Glad. Nursing this injury. What are you talking about? So anyway, that was a little bit of controversy coming out of the local NHL coffers there. The Cats, by the way, playing great hockey. They won 6 in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They are sitting there. I mean, that's the longest streak, tied with the Detroit Red Wings have lost 6 in a row. Washington's won 4 in a row. So they're the hottest team in the league right now.
Yeah, they're playing really good hockey.
Really good.
Zito is just mixing it. We didn't even talk about the Marchand move.
And Brad Marchand, yeah.
It's just, we're just going to go for a veteran this year because we lost some guys. And we also want to weaken one of the better teams in hockey. So, hey, Brad.
You have Tkachuk out, though, and you also have Ekblad on suspension. 2 players that, if you were going to name the top 5 Panther players.
I would say 2 of the top 3 or 4.
I mean, you got Bennett, you got Reinhardt, you have Verhaeghe, obviously Bobrovsky.
Barkov, obviously.
Barkov. There you go. We almost named the entire Panther roster. That's pretty good on our part, man. That shows you that we know something about hockey, Lubie. NBA last night, your Miami Heat managed to blow a 17-point lead. Again, coming into question is Eric Spoelstra vastly overrated prior to this year for his coaching acumen. This has to be at least a dozen double-digit leads, and this was to the Charlotte Hornets. They're
bad team.
It's thrown in the towel in the season a long time ago.
Yeah, it's 2 bad teams in a row that they had big leads that they lost. Look, I've defended him, but you can't blow big leads to the bad. They got their guys back in Wiggins and Ware, and they had Hero, they had Bam, and you have a big lead versus a Hornets team and a Bulls team, and you lose both those games. I mean, something's going on with him. I don't know. I know the roster is bereft of talent 100%, but I don't know. The way they're blowing these leads all season long. I mean, we're in the last quarter of the season. You should have shaken that stuff loose by now.
You have to just by attrition win 1 or 2 of these games, no? And especially to these teams, it's an atrocity. Your man Kristaps Porzingis, the guy that you love to ride and say that he's just. If your best ability is availability, then Porzingis doesn't fit that bill at all. A mystery illness now. His body. No, seriously. I mean, is he from another planet, Porzingis? He could well be. I know he's got the crazy brother who was kind of influencing him when the Knicks soured on him. A lot of ability. I mean, he's like Mel Counts with the ability to go inside. A 7-footer who can shoot the three.
Yeah, he's a
Style.
talented kid. It's why the Knicks eventually said screw it, and it's been his issue since then. The Mavs could have really used him. They said no, we're good. And the Celtics can win without him, but the Celtics aren't going to beat the Thunder or the Cavs without him. To me, at least. I mean, I know Celtics fans have a different opinion, but
nothing's standard with this guy, Lubie. The calf injury, nobody could figure out what
random. It's always random weird crap. When he's playing well, it's like, oh, see, he's played 10 games in a row.
A non-definable illness, yeah.
Ready?
History illness. Some viral infection. I mean, it's all worse than when I was sitting there in the hospital there and they were going to cut my toe off, even though I didn't have what they diagnosed me with. The hell is that? All right, so Porzingis, another strange one. This was good. Denver got shellacked the previous night. 2 nights ago, Denver got shellacked by Oklahoma City, and they do that weird thing now in the NBA where you play 2 games back-to-back in the same city, like maybe a day apart.
They beat the crap out of
So I guess this was on consecutive days. Denver getting 8.5 last night. Beats OKC. To Kendrick Perkins, if you thought that Jokic, Nikola Jokic, was being named MVP strictly because he was a white guy, that seems like it's conceptually flawed, does it not?
Yeah, he's good.
When you look at what this guy's doing, unprecedented stuff he's putting up there.
He's averaging a triple-double again. That's a big.
The other night, I mean, he goes for 30 points plus, 20 plus rebounds, and 20 plus assists.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a big, and he plays like a big. He's not like Dirk, and Dirk was decent as a rebounder, but Dirk did nothing on the defensive end. Like he plays big. He rebounds. He blocks shots. He defends the paint. He makes it difficult for you to go to the basket. Like, no, he's not a Zoe. He's not like an all-time great defensive big, but he is a solid defensive big. Like.
And he doesn't look like he's moving.
No, and he looks like a clod. Like, it's okay to just say, I don't understand how to.
Doesn't he look like the chief in Cuckoo's Nest coming up and down the court? I mean, he's just.
He doesn't run well, and he can't leave the ground. You joke about how your vertical was half whatever. His vertical is not that much better.
No. Could you slide a piece of paper, loose leaf paper, underneath his vertical?
I don't know. I can't lie.
It's threes, great passes. I mean, almost wizard-like when it comes to the passing. All right, we're going to take a short break. Come back with Dave Hyde, the outstanding columnist from the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. Get some perspective on a lot of different things, including Lubie's favorite topic, which is Chris Greer. It is kind of strange that no noise has ever really generated out of that front office where you go. I mean, it goes back. At least Mike Tannenbaum was signing guys that you thought were going to be huge mistakes. Yeah, so you could sit there and go, okay, this is the same guy that gave Mark Sanchez $100 million back when that was a huge score among NFL contracts. Now pales in comparison, of course. But who was the guy, the speedster? That he got
Mike Wallace. Was he the one that did Mike Wallace? Oh,
yeah.
God, of course he was the Mike Wallace.
Remember that? And that was going to change the franchise.
Tannehill, because Tannehill couldn't throw the deep ball.
Buried him. All of these guys that they have in their front office may as well have been studying to be undertakers. They just bury the franchise forever. My favorite thing about the whole story, is just I really want to work for Stephen Ross. I'm so sorry that didn't happen in my lifetime. I haven't had. I wouldn't say I've had bad luck. I've had plenty of luck in my lifetime, just living the life I've had. But at the same time, it wasn't like I caught every break, Lubie. But that would have been one. If I could have just caught one break, it would have been to work for Stephen Ross in any capacity. Because you can be as inept as anybody that ever walked the face of the earth at your job and keep that job, and not only keep it, but be richly rewarded as a result. I would imagine, well, he just gave McDaniel a raise.
Yes.
And I would think Chris Greer probably looked at that and said, hey, wait a minute, you're paying him? I'm the guy to put this together, this 8-9 team.
He's bragging.
9-8, 8-9. You want more? Let's run it back.
Can't.
Remember when you used to get beaten 11-3 and then before the ball had actually cleared the net for the last basket to clinch the game for the other team, you go, hey, let's run it back.
Run it back, yep.
And you got beat 11-2 in the next game. It was like you had no chance. That's what this guy was looking at. All right, back with Dave Hyde in a moment. Now that.
The time.
How suspect is the Hyde interview?
No, it should happen.
Oh, he's in? Okay. All right. It's 8:34.
It's industry.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-45.
The world, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten me sugar now.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Good to have you guys with us. A lot to explore here on the program. I'm going to be joined here in just a second by the great Dave Hyde. I did want to throw this in because I was getting an immense amount of communications from Yankee fans who seemed to be choking on their unchilled jars of gefilte fish last night with the news that Garrett Cole was going the way of, hey, where's Frank Jobe? And I was going to get a little Tommy John and out for the season. They already have Louis Gill, one of their starters. So what was looking very promising in the wake of the defection there of Juan Soto, all of a sudden, as people in New York are scrambling around trying to figure out what they're going to do with themselves when the Yankees are in fourth place in the American League East. All right, we welcome to the program the outstanding, distinguished international columnist from the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, always with great wisdom and insight into what's going on in the sporting world. We welcome to the show the great Dave Hyde. David, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, and let me just, I don't care about Yankee fans. I don't care what they think. I don't care what they feel. I don't care the pain. We got the Marlins. That's enough.
That was our marketing slogan. We've tried to help them out through the years to gain at least some marginal recognition in town. And I'm thinking the billboard will have like a picture of Jean-Paul Sartre on it. And it'll have a Marlins logo and say, "We don't exist." And maybe people will check them out, for the mystery of, what deep-rooted meaning that has about the fact that, life is, sometimes hard to define and quantify what exactly is good and bad. What's the excuse there, though? They're pressuring the Tampa Bay Rays owner to sell the team. This guy's dealt with all kinds of crap, including the roof blowing off his, balsa wood-made stadium that they put up there years ago, the Blunder Dome. And there's nothing being said about what's going on here. What kind of imbalance is that? Where's the pressure on Bruce Sherman to prove that he owns the shirt on his back?
The only thing I can figure is they're upset that Tampa is a feeder system to them. That's what I don't understand. They have a minor league team in Tampa. They develop players there. And they trade it out you think the owners would love that?
Yes.
So I'm curious about it myself.
Pretty weird. All right. I guess this all comes under the heading of what the hell is going on out there. So let's start with this. What the hell is going on out there? We had Aaron Ekblad suspended 20 games. Now, do you sense, Dave Hyde, in your reporting, that maybe there was some buzz about this prior to it actually being announced? And was that part of the reason that Bill Zito went to the ATM machine and said, let me get some defense, and that triggered that first deal? And then how wild is it that they ended up getting Marchand? And this was the trade deadline, had maybe 2 seconds left in it before they pulled that deal off. So how would you rate all of that? We talk about how the Dolphins front office has been on hold forever. But this guy is super aggressive. But what did you make of those two stories? Ekblad first
Well,
and then the trades.
Yeah, Bill Zito is he's got the Midas touch. Every move he's made is pretty much gold from the moment he stepped in, and that's why they went to the finals one year and won the cup last year, and are going to be right there again this year. Yeah, the Ekblad timing is interesting. The first that crossed my mind. So did they trade for Seth Jones because of that? Now, in fairness, a couple things. One is defense was always their number one need. They always needed a defense, to shore up a top four. So that, it fit with what they needed. And the second point is, when someone tests positive for, I don't know the ins and outs of hockey. I know in other sports like baseball, for instance, when somebody tests positive, the team is not informed. The players' union is, and then the appeal process starts. But for instance, when D. Gordon tested positive for the Marlins years ago, and it was a shock to the Marlins front office when it came. Now, he had appealed it and all that and gone through the process, which I don't know how long it takes, but, I would imagine a few weeks. So, I can't say that the Marlins or the Panthers front office didn't catch wind of something, but I know typically in sports that is out of their purview. They are not privy to that process.
Okay.
And regardless, the Panthers needed a defenseman, and it fit. Jones fits exactly. If you would ask Bill Zito in his heart of hearts who he wants, it would have been a guy like Seth Jones.
Yeah, and a shrewd move as was judged at the time. Like you said, in the NHL, probably the greatest mystery league in terms of information, because a guy literally could be deceased and listed, as we were saying before, as an either upper or lower body injury, and that would be all the information that you had.
Yeah, they changed that. I remember when years ago, got to know several of the Panthers when they made their great run in '97 and years afterwards, and talking about an injury to someone, and like it was a left shoulder or somebody, and one of the players said, the diagonal rule. And I said, what's that? And he goes, well, if they put out it's the left shoulder, it's really the right ankle. So now it's got away from that. Now it's just upper body,
the whole
lower body,
half a body.
Well, it's nice to see somebody is actually alert and alive in the front office and willing to go out there, make some waves, make some noise. As we say, if you don't have a pretty good pair of stones, you're never going to be great as a front office type, unless you just have even teams that have had luck just hit them in the face year after year after year. Still, you've seen some guys in the front office that were just laying dormant. This guy is not. In stark contrast to Lubie's favorite guy. Now. What do you make of this quarterback carousel? Have you ever seen anything like this in your lifetime, Dave Hyde? I'm covering sports, where you have like all of a sudden out of nowhere, it seemed, Geno Smith goes to the Raiders, Sam Darnold ends up in Seattle. You had Fields going to the New York Jets. And normally, it's coaches we're talking about at the end of the regular season. Here we are, months away from even training camp, and you have all of this quarterback juxtaposition. Do you see any tangible reason why this is happening so much this year, or is it just one of those fluke situations where that there's this level of movement?
I think lots of teams are searching for a quarterback is the quick answer. And there
aren't many of them.
The word on the street is Aaron Rodgers now is going to Pittsburgh, which... Okay. That fits in a way in that Pittsburgh has an older defense. They got, they just made the trade for DK Metcalf, saying we're in win now mode, and what better win now quarterbacks than Aaron Rodgers, really, and it's one of those boomer busts if that happens. But the whole quarterback thing. start here. It's not a deep draft for quarterbacks. The quarterbacks went 1, 2, 3, and 12 last year. It looks like Cam Ward will be the only one going 1. And after that, there's a drop off, and the question is, will some team, where will Shedeur Sanders be picked? But Cam Ward will be 1.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be Tennessee or Giants or Browns straight up? I don't know. But anybody who watched Cam Ward with Miami last year and listened to him and saw how he took over that team, the third team he's taken over in college and set records, he's the real deal. So I'd be shocked if Tennessee trades that pick.
I would too. Who do they have? Will Levin's quarterbacking for him?
Nobody. Yeah, they got nothing.
No,
so, and the fact they're not making a move in free agency, or at least they haven't yet, suggests we're taking Cam Ward.
Yeah, and you would think that was a certainty. I'm going to go ahead and put a few bucks on that, Dave Hyde. I believe you're right.
What's the odds? What are the odds? What do we get?
They have to be prohibitive. I mean, worse than Scotty Scheffler winning a golf tournament. I mean, you probably got to lay 10,000 to win 100 or something like that. It would be crazy. All right, of these moves that were made yesterday, I mean, I'll let Lubie throw this out there about Chris Greer. Right? Maybe you can pass along some of your sentiments there, Lubie, as we address what, if anything, was accomplished yesterday.
I was just going to say, look, I get we just saw with Darnold, so people are going to go, oh, so you can do that with Zach Wilson. Coming out of college, I had a lot more hope for Sam Darnold than Zach Wilson. I thought he was overdrafted and it was very Jets. So I don't feel the same way. I know the backup quarterback market, it wasn't fruitful, but I see that name going to the Miami Dolphins, and I just laugh and shake my head. What's your reaction with that move, Dave Hyde? Do you think it solidifies their backup quarterback spot? Because that was a big issue for the team last year.
Yeah, I thought they would have got somebody, especially this year, who has more experience, and look, whether it's a Marcus Mariota or Jameis Winston, I mean, you could go down the list of retreads who look, they're not great quarterbacks, but obviously McDaniel and Greer saw something or see something in Zach Wilson that says, let's take the chance on him. And so, I give him points. This isn't the safe move. The safe move would have been signing one of the guys I mentioned, one of those guys with a lot of tread on the tires who not great, but you could win a couple games with them if you had to. That would have been the safe pick. So I give him credit for being aggressive and bold, and they must see something in Wilson that, made him the number 2 pick in the draft a while back. But again, Mitch Trubisky was the number 2 pick in the draft. Now he's firmly entrenched behind a guy who never misses a game, Josh Allen. And so
just got dealt somewhere or for another team. Yeah, he was on the Bills last year, but I'm pretty sure I saw he moved elsewhere.
Okay. I can't keep up with everything.
No, but it's good. I mean, the example is great. I thought they were going to sign Charlie Batch. I really did. Actually, we have a number for him from 20 years ago, Radio Row.
Bring back Don Strock. Now there was the guy you want, right?
All right, so did anything positive happen? Who are these offensive linemen? Are they a couple of slugs, or are they the next Chuck Klingbeil? I mean, what are we looking at here?
Great question. They just signed a safety from Detroit who it's a low risk signing, $4 million, 1 year, $4 million, and the reason for that is he's missed half the games of his career to injury, and so and that's sort of unless you're going for top dollar in free agency with those guys who went yesterday, or some will go today, who don't have major questions. That's what you're going to get in free agency, low risk. They structured the safety deal as low risk, 1 year, $4 million, and same with the offensive lineman they've gotten so far. They must see him as a guard. I assume he plays guard tackle. I don't think he's been very good at tackle according to reports. So, and then they need guards. So, the question is, what do they expect? Is this just insurance for other signings, or do they want these guys to start? And again, with the guy, the Detroit safety, he's missed half his career. I think 37 of 68 or 74 games he's missed, something like that. Is a significant amount, and so look, if you're getting him as a third safety as insurance, that's great. You get him to start, then you run into cross your fingers time again, right? And the Dolphins have had a history of, under Chris Greer, of signing guys with mega health problems.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's like Florence Nightingale. He's crazy.
Maybe lessen the exposure to guys with severe injury history, because in football, rarely do you get healthier as your career progresses. And so we'll see. It's a big off season. I mean, they don't have a lot of money, so I get these are the type of guys they're going to go after. And that puts a lot more pressure on the draft if they're not filling every hole in free agency.
You know what's great about this conversation, and we're talking mostly about South Florida teams here, but
we had it last year. We had it last year, probably. That's what's great.
Well, no, here's what I love about the situation. I covered sports in this town in particular, as South Florida area. As soon as it was announced, I mean, Garrett Cole hadn't even told his wife that he needs Tommy John surgery. And it was already being rumored that the Yankees were going to acquire Sandy Alcantara.
No.
That they were immediately going to turn to the lowest form of pond scum when it comes to integrity as an organization and line up a couple of prospects to trade with the Marlins. And I don't know. I mean, it's good to see some of these other organizations trying. Well, we did get a reminder here, and he wanted to hear your thoughts since you were at the press conference yesterday, which I saw a clip of this Marchand press conference, and we started to talk about this. And it actually, you couldn't help but be moved, could you, when he started breaking down, talking about this time with the Bruins? I mean, what did you take away from that, Dave Hyde?
Tremendous press conference. I mean, that might have been one of the certainly gets my A rating for introductory press conference. He walks out and he says, "How's my tan?" and he's funny, and he calls Sam Bennett a scumbag. Obviously a jest, and
on the BM2,
and then he shows look. He played 16 years in Boston. He was the captain. He won a Stanley Cup. How could he not have emotion on leaving that city? And that you'd hope he would.
Yeah.
And it was genuine how he expressed himself. So the big picture being the Panthers got a guy who people in hockey knew he's first class instigator, agitator. He called him and Bennett and Kachuk, he called predators. and that's he's going to fit in. The Panthers are a team of big personalities.
Yep.
And they just added one who's like-minded, pointed to winning. He's 36. He came here to win. And my read on the last, because I was sitting there at the Panthers last Friday, and it looked like trade deadlines, countdown has begun. It's over. Panthers are done. And all of a sudden, Panthers talking might be Brad Marchand. And then a minute later, deal done for Brad, right at the buzzer. And he must have waved his, he saw they weren't going to come to a contract. He wanted a new contract, a redone contract. Boston's rebuilding, and he said he didn't talk to them again about the contract on the trade deadline. But at some point, he must have waived his no trade clause, or Boston front office accepted the trade. But boy, again, Bill Zito, they got the window to win. He's showing it's a master class on how to run a franchise.
Wow. Remember when we used to wait years and years and years?
Oh, God, with the Panthers.
Yeah. Over and over. Dale Talent. Well, these young guys going to blend in with the veterans. It's like
same thing for 7 years.
Come on. You're highly respected by everybody in the game, but Jesus.
For 2 decades, the Panthers hated me because I'd say this is a horribly run franchise.
It was. I mean,
That's why your back was to the wall there with the logo imprinted on the back of your shirt at those postseason. Everybody else.
And now look at them. Now look at them. They
oh,
are
thank goodness.
they are giving a master class on how to run a franchise. Everything from picking off players with great talent in bad situations, from Sam Reinhart to Verhaeghe. You go down the list of guys they won the Stanley Cup to now that they are a championship. They just keep adding the right flavor of type of players and talents, and so it's whether you're a hockey fan or not, you look at it around town and you look at the Panthers are doing, you say, okay, that's how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we liked Huberdeau, great guy, and Victor Kozlov skating around there doing pirouettes and figure eights. Give me some guys that want to get it on. And these guys are on the All Mills Lane team, a lot of them. So, it's a whole different approach. All right, one last thing, Dave Hyde here, as we peruse the local scene here in South Florida, and hopefully we didn't lose everybody that was listening, somewhere in Utah, which, by the way, getting 17.5 from the Celtics last night was a gift. With the Utah Jazz. We know the Celtics mail it in against those kind of teams. They win by 6. Speaking of basketball, and a good friend of mine, who I believe you're familiar with, I'm sure you met him a few times, the Polyman, who was on my trivia show forever. And he's a very astute observer of sports. And he texted me early in the season that was it a premature evaluation to consider Eric Spoelstra, as accomplished as he is, among the greatest coaches, top 5 all time in professional basketball. Now, I ask you this: if Red Auerbach was blowing 17-point leads every night, even when the Celtics, were, I don't know that they were ever a shell of themselves while he was coaching them, but would that not come into question about where does coaching apply, in your opinion, to a team that's being decimated by lousy teams? I mean, Charlotte is screaming for the number 1 pick and the most ping pong balls, and deserving of it because they're horrible. And they come back from 17 down and beat you after you just lost a 15-point lead the night before. Where does the coaching aspect apply to stopping the nosebleed? They need a cut man, not a coach at this point.
Well, that had to be the worst loss of the season right there last night. I mean, considering the backdrop of 4 straight losses before it, where you drop leads, double-digit leads. So where's coaching? I mean, it's in there. I'm not going to look. This is a bad roster, and I just don't mean it's full of bad players. I mean, it's a bad roster in that they don't have. The Heat were built, and the philosophy was two-way players. Okay, good average two-way players, good two-way players. When the big 3, look at them all. They played offense, they played defense. Yep. Now they don't have anybody like that. I mean, I guess Wiggins does it. He's just not consistent at it. But Bam is a great defensive player who can have good offensive nights, but he's not a guy you go to an offensive. Hero's a great offensive player who can't play defense, even though he's trying now and he's gotten a little better. And you go down the list, and that's the whole list. They don't have. So yeah, I mean, look, Spoelstra, I'm sure blaming himself. But all I know is typically, and this year is going to be the exception. His teams get better through the year, and by the playoffs have been. They've shown what they can do. They went to the NBA Finals. Twice in the last 6 years now, and Eastern Conference Championship another time. So this might be the unfortunately normal cycle of an NBA team where you're up for a few years, unless you got a core of players who are around forever. The Heat, they had Jimmy Butler playing great, but it's time for the Heat to probably, and they are taking a dip down as they would have expected trading Butler, and get things right again. They had their run. Now comes some pain as they get their salary cap in line and get their talent better.
All right. You've always been very open, straightforward in your columns. Just curious, you mentioned there might have been some misunderstandings between you and the Panther organization when you were writing every day, and they're not correctly so, that they were going nowhere, that Dale Talon was a brick wall in the front office. And as well respected as he might be in Prince Albert Island, over here he wasn't doing so hot of late. Have you ever been confronted, a la Jason Cole being body slammed into a locker by Gene Atkins after he was unhappy with something Cole might have written in Miami Herald or the Sun Sentinel? Have you ever had any kind of confrontation with a player or a front office person, sports executive, over something that you've written where they confronted you like LeBron James did with Stephen A. Smith? You're too nice of a guy, Dave. Nobody could not
like $100 million like Stephen A. Smith. Then you could confront me about
it. Yeah. Go ahead. Tell me to go bleep.
The loudest one to me, going back years, and there have been minor flare-ups here and there in recent years. Just words they didn't think I had got the column right, or that wasn't fair, or et cetera. Biggest flare-up was Brian Cox. Remember back in the 90s?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Off Buffalo.
Everyone knows.
Yeah.
And I walked in I was actually told by Harvey Green, hey, can you not go in the locker room today? And I was like, well, that's kind of a weird request. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Yeah.
So, of course, I then had to go in the locker room.
Yeah.
And I walk in, and on the whiteboard there is Dave Hyde, suck my.
No.
Signed Brian Cox.
Signed Brian. Oh no.
Is he the first person you ran into after that? Also,
as I'm walking over toward him to see, I gotta admit, usually when someone says something, I've written a column. I get why they're upset. This one I was kind of shocked by because I didn't write about Cox. He was just. The column, just to give it a background, they've been beaten the year before in San Diego in the playoffs. They blew a 21-0 lead. Now it comes the first game of the year against Indianapolis, and they had blown another big lead. And I said, "Oh, it's the same thing." He was upset because they got physically manhandled by San Diego, and they just made some bad plays against Indianapolis. So that's what. Anyway, so I'm walking over there, and he's yelling at me. I talked to him for 10 minutes or whatever. And actually, it's funny, Dan Lebertard, I remember, walked over to talk, and because he loves those conversations.
Oh, yeah.
And,
group therapy.
And, that was that. I've seen Cox through the years, and we're fine. But if you're saying, have I been confronted? Yeah, there's been a couple of like that. That was the loudest and most uncomfortable. Sometimes you just have to take it because. Yeah. Look, I get to say what I want. How can I deny them saying what they want to me? They should have that right.
I think Cox also threatened to kill Mike Mayo, at one point.
He did. He actually was more violent than he was with Hyde.
He had litigation going against our old radio partner, Phil Hendry, who we spoke to recently.
I remember the whole Phil Hendry thing. That was funny. That was.
He liked us, though, because I used to see him at the track all the time. So it was great. He had a big interest.
You're winners, right?
He couldn't have been any nicer of a guy outside of the Dolphin environment there. I don't know what the culture was at the time, but he was a big part of it since that time that he was protecting Stoyo against the Cincinnati Bengals and took on the entire team on the sideline.
He was actually, he came back here to coach.
Yeah, he was a very nice guy, actually.
Very nice. He's a great guy. He had a great career, and it was just for occasional times where, I'm looking a little like, what's going on here? I don't understand this one.
Knowing his temper and the flare-ups that he had with various media members in the Dolphins locker room, I was very hesitant when he asked me who I liked in a race to give him any kind of Because now it's costing him money instead of just whatever he thought was being scrapped from his dignity. Dave, we love you, man. Thanks so much. Interesting perusal of virtually everything that was happening. And what we'll look forward to. I'm going to have to go back and read that Marchand column because that sounded like it was really, really interesting. Most press conferences are pretty lame. That one looked like a good one. Thanks so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure.
All right, Defo. See you, Lubie.
All right, Dave Hyde, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that was kind of interesting. No, Lubie, what did you think?
Look, he's doing this with Spo. What I'm doing, I don't like.
It's weird though, isn't it?
Blowing big leads, you would think at some point you'd figure it out. You'd do something different. I don't. I think he has no answers.
Well, I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. You could say to yourself, "How did he get this bunch of scrubs to be up 17?" But then to lose like that, I mean, you have to be able. These are professional athletes, Lubie. I sound like I'm doing a wrestling disclaimer, don't I? These are professional athletes, and these are strictly exhibitions designed to show the skill and stamina of the athletes. But nonetheless, I mean, look, you couldn't be, you can't be in professional sports unless you're the most highly competitive people. You see what happens, Lubie, no? Where they get involved in anything else, and they're life and death, man. They get hurt, like in the Superstars competition, NBA players.
Yep.
Highly competitive, big ego game, also.
Mm-hmm.
You see it all the time. People are trashing the pro game, saying it's become garbage and unwatchable. I don't know. I can't discount you feeling that way if you do, because it doesn't look like. Well, we're not seeing Bill Bradley rubbing off a pick from Phil Jackson.
It's a bunch of threes.
Out and hangs the guys that are trying to guard him.
I mean, look at the scores. I mean, they're in the 130s, 140s nightly. I mean,
last night, this Denver game, Denver, Oklahoma City, was 140 to 127.
Yeah, but look, you're getting more
players buried. I mean, at halftime,
and you're getting weaker defense. I mean, you just are. Like, it's just Shaq said it, and I guess I don't know why we didn't notice it before then, but from that point on, as fans, and then you started with the Spurs with the sitting people, that combination, and then the Warriors took the three. Like, those things where the players don't take the regular season seriously, the team started sitting guys, and then the three ball / the defense became weak. Like, it's changed the game. It just has. I mean, I try to watch in the playoffs. The problem is the playoffs last year sucked. So,
a lot of bombs going up there. A lot of bombs.
It's just a problem. Like, I don't like. We do with baseball. I don't like saying, "Well, the game isn't the same," but the game isn't the same. Like, I don't know.
It is. I mean, look, it's okay if games progress. You go back and watch like Bjorn Borg taking on McEnroe.
100%.
You're thinking, are they showing this in slow motion? In comparison to what you're watching today, even if you're watching like the number 150 guy in the world playing number 80.
Yep.
So, yeah, all games evolve, but I'm not sure that the NBA game evolved into. Look, people must love it, right? Chicks dig the long ball, my friend. All right, we have to get out of here. Thanks to Dave Hyde for joining us here on the show, and we'll do it again tomorrow. Tony Segreto goes old school with us, the iconic Tony Segreto, the George Michael sports machine. You guys around the country remember this cat. He would fill in, and he was better than the host. Not always a favorable situation. They trick, quickly try to go to the third string guy. I didn't think you were available, Deef.
They always went to someone who's garbage. That's why Isaac didn't have us on, because Isaac knew we'd be
sure the guy that's filling in for you absolutely stinks.
Exactly.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us here. Later on today, don't forget Conversations. Jim Larinaga. I understand from Jim Sarney he has been doing some segments on the radio.
Okay, cool. That's fine.
We'll see. And I believe they stream that show. So
I presume whatever he's doing on the radio is not what he does with you.
Yeah, no, it's almost all video. I mean, radio has become this, and this has become no. I mean,
I'm just talking about the conversation that he has with us, as in most conversations people have with us.
Are
not the same as other radio conversations.
Because I mean, how weird is that? Think about that. I'm playing like half court ball when I'm 16 years old, and I really had just started to embrace basketball more heavily in my interests. Because in Brooklyn, when I was growing up, we didn't play any basketball. I didn't pick it up till we moved to Long Island, and I like all sports. I love playing anything. So, but I end up in this game where one team dominates the court. They had Dr. J on their team. 16 years old, and they had this kid, Eddie Malloy. What were the chances of that? That would be the arch rival of Jim Larinaga during his high school days. I throw this obscure name at the guy, and he knows every Tell me that didn't even surprise you, Lubie, among the many things we've done that have been
100%.
Yeah.
I thought it was ridiculous. And then
it was insane.
It became our thing.
He shocked me. So, a basketball treasure chest, Jim Larinaga. And we
100%.
seem to have some kind of basketball conversational bond. So, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be happening 4 o'clock today on Bleacher Brothers. For Mike Lubie, it's Dave Hyde. I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:10.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.